Welcome to the Marketing for Startups podcast. If you're trying to figure out marketing for your startup, then you're in the right place. In this podcast, we go high level, looking at the intersection of branding, data, and leadership to offer you a marketing playbook to grow and scale. Join me each week for in-depth interviews, tactical advice, and practical trainings. Hi, I'm your host, Victoria Hajar, veteran marketer and startup enthusiast. I promise to bring my experience and curiosity to each episode. Then together, we'll peel back the onion on this ever-changing discipline that is marketing. I'm so happy you're here. Let's dive in. Hi, welcome to this week's episode, talking about something I'm so excited about. I'm totally nerding out about it. I know I'm the only person probably on earth that's as excited about this topic as me, but we're talking about a marketing scorecard. Is there a time in your week or a time in your month where you're reviewing all of the data for your business? Is there a time in the week or a time in the month where you're looking specifically at all the metrics for your marketing efforts? Or is this something that you generally tend to avoid? So if you're in the camp of generally tending to avoid it, you are not alone. I cannot tell you all of the businesses that I have had the privilege of being a part of, all the teams that I've worked with, all the founders that I've worked with, companies big and small. And for everyone, data just seems to be this thorn in the side. It just seems to be this big, big challenge. And today I'm going to dig into a little bit about why it's such a challenge, from my opinion, from an operational standpoint, and then offer you a couple solutions and then reveal the ultra amazing, super perfect marketing scorecard, the last scorecard you'll ever need. So let's dig into what is the problem with metrics in general. So if you're looking at a really high level, right? If you're just like presenting metrics to key stakeholders or investors and things like that, it's generally really great to have a big dashboard. It's great to have like a nice, clean dashboard with some really sexy graphics that you can kind of manipulate to show whatever you want to show, right, to your key stakeholders, because data can definitely be manipulated to tell the story that you want. And on that highest level, I think these sort of dashboards that exist are really great. So if you're not familiar with data dashboards, I would suggest looking into a company called DataBox, be DATABOX, or DataBox. You say data, I say data, whatever. DataBox is great, and the idea of having a dashboard for your data is really about aggregating all of the data from various platforms into one like clean dashboard, instead of having to go into all the different platforms to pull the data from. So like, for example, if you want to know how all of your social media is doing, normally you'd have your social media manager pulling reports from Instagram, pulling reports from TikTok, pulling reports from Twitter. So they'd have these individual reports that has a bunch of information, right? And depending on what you're tracking, a lot of times there's so much information, right? Like, engagement and likes and comments and this and that and this. And maybe you're trying to look, you want to just pull one or two key pieces of data from each marketing activity, right? It depends on what you're wanting to look at. But the point is, instead of having our assistant or even ourselves, right, pulling data from all these various places and pulling it into like one core central spot, the data dashboard does that for you automatically. And they're really cool. You can really tailor what you want to look at, and you can look at different views across different time periods. It is really, really useful to have a dashboard. So for most of my clients, we use HubSpot, but as I mentioned, DataBox is a great option if you're not a HubSpot user. But what I want to talk about is, while these data dashboards are really useful, they're like certainly a wonderful tool, right, for accessing this data quickly. From an operational standpoint, I haven't found them to be a really awesome solution to use with teams. So on my weekly meetings, we have a very clear agenda, and one of the agenda items is reviewing the scorecard together. Each team member should have KPIs, key performance indicators, right? And some targets attached to what they're doing. And I really suggest you sharing targets with your team because it keeps them focused and it keeps them accountable. It keeps them motivated, right? So on Mondays, I always have my team meetings with all of my clients, and we look at the scorecard. And what we're doing, like the point of looking at the scorecard from from a tactical stance is looking at what are the results of that particular marketing action as measured against the targets. So each week I want a really clear view on those metrics that each of my team is accountable for. And then I want to understand those trends week over week or month over month or quarter over quarter or year over year and so on. But most importantly, I want to see those metrics being measured against the goals. And the reason why that is so important is I feel like in these data dashboards, it's often like very disjoined, where you have maybe like one document that's showcasing like, well, what are the KPIs? But then the dashboards, I haven't found one yet that actually measures the KPIs, right? So you're pulling this data together, but you want to see like on one sheet of paper right next to each other or one document on the screen, what were the results versus what the actuals are. And then you can even measure the percentage if you want of the gap, right? And this becomes just really, really vital to having like some core centralized goal that everyone's working towards, and everyone's very clear on how what they're doing in the marketing department helps push the needle towards the goals that you guys, are trying to achieve in marketing. So all this to say, I've been on the hunt for the perfect marketing scorecard literally for years. I think that I have used every single Google template or Word doc template that exists for measuring data. I've literally scoured the far reaches of the internet, and each time I try to make use of one of these templates or softwares or what have you, I only end up getting like confused and more disappointed time and time again, because there's been so many instances where I've tried implementing scorecards, right? And then just a few weeks later, I'm unable to kind of get into an actionable like rhythm with my team. And actually, it's really hard to garner tactical discussions from the dashboards. And it's usually this moment where you're just like looking at the dashboard, you're kind of like making a sidebar comment on like, oh, this isn't working. But the other, this is working, this isn't working, right? But the other thing is that like, it's also hard to understand when you're looking at the data in a silo, in what ways that piece of data or that metric fits in with the overall marketing strategy, right? It tends to get away from us as we're doing our day-to-day of marketing to like be pulled back to what that marketing strategy is, right? And what is the bigger thing that we're all working towards, right? We're not just worried about followers on Instagram. We're worried about how those followers on Instagram contribute to our revenue goals, right? How we convert them to actually becoming clients. So this is what has been on my mind literally for years. And then I had this like bolt of lightning epiphany like a couple weeks ago. And it's like, I'm so excited about it. Like, I know no one else cares, but it's like so satisfying to my own being. And I'm really happy to be sharing it with you guys here on the podcast. So the exciting news to share is that I have literally created the most useful marketing scorecard, the perfect metric tracker of all time that allows you to clearly track the success of each part of the overall marketing strategy and be able to see like very clearly on one Google sheet that marketing strategy, right? To see the marketing funnel in action, literally. So let's talk about how it works. So the metrics, and again, in the show notes, you can download the free template. It's totally free. I want you to use it. I'm excited for you to have it. And once you download it and make a copy, you can adjust it in any way that you see fit for your individual business. There's a lot of details you'll have to change based on like what your particular marketing strategy is. But the metrics are divided into sections according to where they fall on the client value journey. So for example, all the lead gen or like that attract phase activities are grouped into one section. And then like nurture activities such as like blog metrics or newsletter and social media stats are grouped together in another section. And the beauty of the system is that if you track the metrics in each section and measure them against your targets, you're going to be able to clearly see the weak parts of your marketing funnel. Because as a marketing department or as a founder that's doing the marketing themselves or whatever, your main goal is to make sure that you have like a strong and vibrant marketing funnel that's actually churning out results and equaling revenue, right? But when we're looking at data just kind of randomly and we don't see how it all fits together, it's really hard to understand where to put your time and attention. So like even better, what I do is I color code the result metrics. So for example, I use green, yellow, and red. So with those, once your team or even yourself or an assistant or whomever is filling out the scorecard each week, you're going to fill that particular cell with a color based on where they are in accordance to what the target. So if you're within 10% more or less of the target, that'll be green. If you're like 50% of the target, you can make that yellow. If you're less than 50% of the target, that'll be red. And in 1 second, at a glance, like automatically when you open up that scorecard, you're going to be able to visualize the part of the funnel where you need to focus your time and creativity and your energy into fixing it, because that's actually where the marketing starts to get really, really fun, right? How do you improve conversion rates? Well, that's like all about creativity. That's creativity in copy, creativity in imagery, creativity in campaign structure. Like that's the fun part. And I feel like when we're doing these individual marketing activities in a silo, it's really hard to get out of that throwing spaghetti at the wall mentality, because you're only trying to fix like one small part of the whole, right? It's like you're fixing one small part, one small leak in the pipe without like any context to the rest of the pipe, right? So therefore it's going to be much more difficult to fix like one part of the marketing flywheel of that marketing funnel, however you want to call it, if that fix is not going to serve the next stage, right? So having that holistic view is so important. So do you want a copy for yourselves? I'm sure you guys are gnawing at the bit to get your own copy of this awesome marketing scorecard. It is my gift to the world. I hope that all you out there in podcast land use it and find it useful, and you can kind of change it as you see fit. But I personally have never seen a marketing scorecard organized in this way. So I hope, go ahead and download it, get using it, and please send me your comments. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I want to hear that too. Is it useful? Is it completely not useful? Give me it all. I'd love to keep iterating on this and improving this and sharing it with you all. Thanks, and hope to see you back here next week. In the meantime, keep going for your dreams and growing your business. You did it! You made it to the end of the episode. Thanks for sticking around with me and listening all the way to the end. I really appreciate you as an audience member, and I hope that you found this helpful. If you did like this episode, it would mean so much to me if you subscribed, if you rate and review this podcast. It helps other people know that this podcast has something worth saying. It also would be super awesome if you could take a screenshot and share on Instagram and tag me at Ugly Ventures, UGLI Ventures, VENTURES. I am always so appreciative to hear from you, and I hope to see you back here next week on the Marketing for Startups podcast.